Okay, so the recording has started. And once again, by continuing to be in this meeting, you're consenting to be recorded. If you need to drop and if you don't want to be part of a recorded session, feel free to drop and you can come back and watch the recording later. Okay, so what's the agenda today? As soon as my screen starts working. Okay, yes, so some meeting etiquettes. Once again, you've seen this before. Please do not use your video, especially unless it's necessary. That's what even I'm doing. But at some point, we'll just all kind of come up here and just take a nice picture, and we'll let your classmates know what they kind of missed. We'll certainly do that at some point. If not today, maybe in the future sessions. But most for the most part, let's keep our video shut so that we can get the full advantage of the bandwidth that we have here for this meeting. Mute your microphone when you're not talking. Limit any distractions around you. For any questions or comments, please wait until I open up for Q&A. And alternatively, I'm trying to make this engaging. So if I ask you in between, if you have any questions, please feel free to speak up, right? I don't want to kind of just keep going and push everything, all the QA at the end. I want to make this really an engaging and a conversation more than just a presentation here. And alternatively, you can also put it in the chat room. Yelena is with us today. She can monitor the chat room, and I can try my best to, check the questions in the chat room as well. So that's what I mentioned, and the next in a bullet there. Then webinars will be typically an hour or less. Once again, I will not keep you here for a longer time. I'll spend a few minutes kind of reviewing what you kind of have learned during the first week and get you set for the second week. We'll talk about that. And we'll get into the agenda pretty soon. So nothing more than an hour for sure. And please mark your calendar when you get a Zoom invite, which you all have done. One of the reasons why you're all here. So keep doing that. It's good practice. So what do we have for today? We'll talk about problem framing and reframing. We'll briefly touch upon assignment 1 and just see if you have any questions, any doubts. And then once again, towards the end or in between, you can keep asking your questions. I did put out a website where you could have logged your question anonymously. Until few minutes back, I did not see any questions on that website. So we'll kind of take a look at, or maybe I'll look for any questions that you may have here directly. Okay, so we'll take it any impromptu questions. All right, so with that, let's get to our agenda, the first problem framing. And before I get deeper into real conversation here, I just wanted to share this Dilbert. I love Dilbert, and I wanted to share this one specifically, which talks about solving the wrong problem. So let me give you a minute to kind of just read through this. I hope you'll enjoy it. Okay, so I hope you had a smile on your face as much as you and I had it. I mean, it was funny. We are talking about problem framing and how you could end up solving the wrong problem, which basically happened here. Okay, so let's see what's in the chat room. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I find it really hilarious. But yeah, it's kind of just what we were all learning, right? What we were all talking about, even in our discussions. Once again, very lively discussion we had in our discussion 1, great participation. But you were all kind of bringing, great examples of how companies are, solving the wrong problem or not framing that problem correctly, or they completely in a different direction. So yeah, all of that, right? So, okay, as soon as my screen, yeah, okay. So why frame a problem first, right? And it starts with, this few quotes up here that I put up, which kind of, points to the fact that, framing a problem is so important, as much as, so much so that even one of our, as one of the smartest people here, like Albert Einstein also said once, if I have an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend, 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 minutes thinking about the solution. And I know there are a few versions of this same quote elsewhere, but the point is that even someone as smart as Albert Einstein could also pay a lot of attention and put a lot of emphasis on thinking about the problem, what the problem actually is, how to frame a problem, and then, just spending a fraction of that time solving it. Same the other quote, which you saw in the classroom, answering to the right problem in the right way depends 95% on the correct framing of it. And it's so true. I mean, you guys have done a lot of research during the last 1 week and came up with so many examples. We could just keep going on, and so many different companies, so many popular companies that you've talked about who framed their problem incorrectly. And the last one, that's from yours truly. If you do not ask the right question, you will not get the right answer. As simple as that, right? So problem framing, if you think about it, it has been there for so long. I mean, it's probably right from ever since humans existed, right? For example, if you ever worked in a team before, you have most likely at some point asked this question to the people around you. What is the problem we are trying to solve here? Isn't that true? So it's not rocket science. It's something that we've been either subconsciously doing it or consciously and have done this in the past. We just kind of what we are giving, we're giving a little importance to this problem framing, trying to see how it can impact your solutions, how it can impact and change the whole trajectory, the whole direction of the team, the company, or the work on hand, or the problem in hand. So that's why we kind of learning about the importance of this. But we've all been doing it. And we've all been doing it at the same time. We've also, landed into problems with problem framing. And a couple of them, which is very common, is we tend to quickly jump into solutions and spending enough time not spending enough time contemplating the problem. Like we all do that many a times, right? I mean, before we could even complete the problem statement or, complete understanding the problem, we just rush into, solving it. And it happens a lot. And especially when you get into, you're all now into a technical arena, you will be talking a lot about data analytics, a lot about how you're solving things. You'll be getting more technical day by day. And you will see yourself that sometimes you'd want to solve things before even thinking, what am I going to solve here? What am I really looking for? So just have to watch out, for this one. The second, and also very, very common, is we often make the mistake of putting ourselves into a corner by framing problems around solutions, right? I mean, we already have zeroed on to, so we already have thought about a solution and we're just framing a problem around it, thinking that, hey, we already know the answer and this is what the problem was. So before framing the problem, we have all actually, we have a solution in front of us. So let's do this exercise, like a very, very quick one, very simple one, right? So you're in a flower vase business, and lately your customers have not purchased your vases as much as they did in the past. Your sales have dropped considerably. Your customers have often complained that they don't like your vases. What do you do? How do you frame this problem? I'm asking you all. So please feel free to unmute and speak up. And it doesn't matter, guys. There's nothing right or wrong. So let's all participate, right? Just give me, please, folks, volunteer and tell me, what would you do? How would you frame this problem?
First thing I guess I would ask is what exactly they don't like about the vases, or why they don't like the vases.
Okay. All right, very good. So you would find out why you like the vases, but your customers have said that, well, they probably, there's a design issue, or maybe there's, maybe it's just the colors of the vases or whatever that is. Something about your vases is not right. So, okay, so you'd want to go deeper into it. Okay, anyone else?
Maybe you could, following up on that comment, you could use customer satisfaction surveys after a transaction and say, hey, what did you like about our store experience? And then maybe casually slip in a comment about the vases there, and then people could put their input as to why they don't like the vases.
Right.
Which in turn you could then maybe decide to order new vases or bring up a catalog of stuff and see what people actually get.
Right. Okay. No, very good. This is all good. Good answers, guys. So keep going. Anyone else wants to jump in here? Or anything different from what we have heard so far? Anyone? Okay. One of the common things that we would all get into, right? I mean, yes, we got all the complaints, we've got the suggestions, we've done these surveys, we've got and heard that, hey, your vases are not, well designed, or not well colored, or, doesn't fit into the style, the styles is not right. What do we kind of end up doing typically? We would all try to redesign our flower vases, right? You'd see like many companies would kind of say, okay, now we need to redesign. We need to do this in a different way. We need to package it in a different way, color it in a different way, right? But instead, what if we just take a step back? Despite everything that you would have heard, what if we frame it as this way? Like, if we need to design a better way for families to enjoy flowers in their home, why does it have to be only about redesigning flower vases? Why can't we be an innovative company to say, okay, people don't like flower vases anymore. They like to see flowers in a different way. Maybe it's kind of put up on the window sills, on the doors, and different places. It's not about just having flower vases in the room and on the dining table, or in places elsewhere, or on tables. They want it, in different ways that you could see it in the house, right? So once again, by framing your problem this way, you've given your company an opportunity to do things differently, to do things in a way that people may like it, because change is always refreshing, right? We all say that. We all say that for so many different things that we do in life. So why not change what we are doing, to change the product that we are selling? Make sense, guys? Do you agree? Do you guys all agree?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for the response back. Appreciate it. All right. Let's move on. Let's look at this other problem. A lot of kids are falling from a bicycle while they're learning, right? Once again, what would you do in this case? Say you're in a bicycle business. Here, you're someone, a kid is already riding your bicycle, and you've got this complaint. Well, a lot of kids are falling. So what do you do in this case? Once again, taking a cue from our previous example, what you would do is maybe design a way to stop bicycles from falling while kids are still learning. Maybe you'll put all those little practice wheels, right? The learning wheels, the extra wheels that you get on the side, and make your bicycle stand, maybe just, stay upright as much as possible while the kids are learning. And many of us may have already learned it that way, right? I mean, if you remember, your bicycles would have those extra wheels on the side so that you don't fall down. Well, which is good, right? But at some point, that those wheels have to go away, right? So I think the way this problem needs to be framed, or how the solution needs to come up, is to say, design a better way for kids to master balancing, right? How are you going to teach the kids, right? Maybe show them, nice, maybe cartoonist videos these days. Kids are all into, having iPhones and all this, this smartphones, and maybe even watching videos at home and stuff like that. Why not, create some very, as attractive videos for them, that kind of influence the way they would learn bicycle, something along. I'm just kind of trying to come up with something, right? But find out a better way for them to master balancing, rather than trying to change how your bicycles look. That's not really going to help. That may help, maybe for some short period of time, but at some point, as I said, those wheels need to go away. And the best way is to make them learn to balance, right? So that's how it's kind of, just showing you how we can frame our problems in a way that could lead to better solutions. So this way, once again, maybe we all frame it, and then we don't want to, go from there or try to change it. But as much as problem framing is important, problem reframing is important as well. And this is something from an article that I put it up here, which is, sometimes to solve a hard problem, you have to stop looking for solutions to it. Instead, you must turn your attention to the problem itself, not just to analyze it, but to shift the way you frame it. Very powerful, folks, very powerful. If many of the companies that you put up during our discussions, many of the examples that you put up, if they would have seriously, had thought about this or read this multiple times, sure, they would not have made the mistakes they made, or mistakes they are making, right? They would have, or maybe they would be able to solve, or maybe frame their problems well and solve them in a much better way. So as much as problem framing is important, problem reframing is as well. Now, look at this problem that you saw in one of the articles that you may have read about the elevator, right? When the elevator is too slow, here there's a chatter here, I just found this, the same example put up in a nice picture form here, in a nice cartoon form. And it says, I have to wait a lot. I'll break the lease if you don't fix it. The elevator is too slow. The solution is, okay, upgrade the algorithm that runs the lift, make the elevator faster, install a strong motor, replace the lift. So many solutions, right? And all the solutions are leading to something that could be either impossible to do, or maybe you don't have enough funding to do, or it would be probably too much to do it, or it would take a long time. Instead, how about just simply reframing the problem that wait is annoying? Let's do something about while you're waiting. So it could be as simple as putting up mirrors next to the elevator, where people could spend time looking into the mirror and grooming themselves, or whatever it is, and make the wait feel shorter. Very simple, right? Putting the mirrors around the elevator, you've made people complaining less about the wait for the elevators, right? So once again, there are times when there are very simple solutions available, but we tend to think so hard, or tend to think all about the complex solutions or costly solutions at times, and think that, yes, we need to, get this problem completely go away. But sometimes it's not the case. We don't have to really, the problem could be elsewhere. And that's what problem reframing comes into play. And that's where it becomes more and more important, right? So think about the airplanes, right? Why aren't airplanes, once again, this is just a video, short video. You'll find it on YouTube. And guys, you don't have to look for it now. It's right here. You don't have to take any notes. You'll be getting this deck, so don't worry about it. But let's just give it a thought. Why do you think planes are not getting faster? And they have got faster, right? But we've sometimes gone ahead. We've taken 2 steps ahead and come back, maybe not 2, but maybe 3 steps behind. Why do you think the airlines industry has done that? Why do you think airplanes are not getting faster? What's the rationale behind it? What do you think?
Maybe there's a max like safe speed they can go due to the limits of physics, like drag and wind resistance and all that.
Well, we've seen the military planes go at the speed of sound, and they've been around for so long, right? So we have made machines that go at the speed of light. I'm sorry, speed of sound, not light, I'm sorry, but speed of sound. And maybe even sometimes, double that. And we've been there, we've been successful with it. Once again, it's a right answer. I'm not denying it. What you're saying is absolutely right. Maybe, some certain speeds are, and some governments do not want certain speed limit to be broken in the airspace, which is fine, which could be the case. What else?
I think it could be cost prohibitive because for getting it in the mainstream for airplanes to be faster, that would mean whole fleets would need to be replaced, and the cost would be passed on to the consumer, and that.
Yeah.
I don't know how much the cost per ticket would increase if that were to occur.
Yeah, true. No, that is definitely a factor. Anyone else have anything else to add here? So yeah, I mean, put these answers, right? I mean, if you think about Concorde was there, right? But look at the issues that we had with Concorde, right? The sound that it generated, that it led to so many countries, so many airspaces, even went ahead and banned that plane. They did not let it enter in their airspace because of the sound it made, because of when, especially during landing and takeoff, the amount of sound it made that people, saw their windows crashing and so on. There were so many, and of course there were accidents as well. So what did they do there? Because they thought, wow, okay, we need to somehow, people want to be within a short period of time, go from point A to point B. Yes, we do. We would love to kind of see that kind of a technology, but at what cost, right? We can't take so much risk with our lives just for the sake of, like, instead of taking 8 hours for New York to London, we reached the 3 hours. But for those extra 5 hours, we would not risk your life. What if somebody told you, well, it's 50% that you'll reach London in 3, but if you'll reach in 3 hours. How many people do you think, how many people would buy the ticket for that kind of an airplane ride? I doubt, if any. Well, those who do would be truly brave hearts, or, real life gamblers, I would say. But yeah, I mean, not many, right? You will not find buyers. Same thing for, if they tell you, well, you can definitely, go from London to New York or New York to London in 3 hours, but your cost is no longer, a couple of grand or maybe a grand, but it will be 20 grand, 15 grand. Because look at the Concorde tickets, what in amount they would charge for a single ticket. And you would know how much the cost was increased just because of reducing the time. And so the people who really went in Concordes were really all executives and business executives and rich people, because the others could not afford it and didn't want to really go in that kind of a flight, which was not tested out well. So at the end, well, Concorde was gone. So it's not that this industry doesn't know how to build airplanes faster. As I just said, we've built planes. We have planes in the military that runs in at the speed of sound or goes at the speed of sound, and still we've been around for so long and we've been successful with that. It's just that at what cost, right? And that cost goes to in the public. So yes, they frame a problem and they reframed it and said, well, we want to make airplanes, but we need to kind of have to look into different parameters like cost, the risk to life, and risk to people around, to the general public who would be staying close to or living close to the airports and all that. So there were so many parameters that you have to work against, that you had to reframe the problems and say, okay, guys, we will not make just faster planes. We will make this an economical plane ride for people to go from point A to point B is with as comfort as possible, right? So once again, don't want to go too much further, but I'm just saying how this industry had framed a problem and then reframed it. And maybe they have done it multiple times and now come up with, and maybe they're not yet with the final reframing of the problem. Maybe they will reframe it and keep reframing it. So I would like to point you to this article, shift your lens on the power of reframing problems, just written by Tina Seelig in 2013, but still very relevant. It's an excellent article. I put up a link here. If you get a chance, please do read it. It's a wonderful article. And this article starts with these two questions. Look at these two questions here, right? What is the sum of 5 plus 5? What two numbers add up to 10? What do you think is the difference between these two questions? Just think for a few seconds, right? What's the difference here? The first question has only one answer, 5 plus 5 is 10, right? This cannot be anything different. But the second question has multiple solutions, right? So this is once again indicating about framing a problem in such a way that it could lead to multiple solutions. You don't want to frame a problem that's going to only lead to one particular solution and that's it. Maybe you want to reframe it or frame it in a way that it can, help you. It can give you that opportunity to innovate, opportunity to give yourself, your company, your organization, your team, a chance to do things differently and in a more impactfully, right? And in a more impactful way. So I love this paragraph in the article. It says at Stanford's Hasso-Plattner School of Design, or D School, students are taught how to empathize with very different types of people so that they can design products and experiences that match their specific needs. When you empathize, you are essentially changing your frame of reference by shifting your perspective to that of the other person. So instead of looking at a problem from your own point of view, you look at it from the point of view of your user. It's such a powerful paragraph. And think about now, just from this focus on, or think about all the different discussion postings, right, that we've had during this week. How many of you kind of have brought up this point in different ways, right, where companies have looked at it and tried to solve their problem in such a different way? And there was definitely in a way, or maybe they did not even think about their customers. They did not think about their consumers. They're probably just thinking about themselves. And we have kind of had that kind of conversation, that kind of discussion, right? So it's so important that your frame of reference is your client, your customers, what they need. You're constantly thinking about them, not thinking about just how you want to solve a problem, but thinking about how do they want to solve this problem? How would they love your product? How do they want your product, right? How do they want their service? It's about them. If them exists in your corporation, in your company, in your organization, in your team, you exist, right? As simple as that. So reframing problems is not a luxury On the contrary, all companies need to continually reframe their businesses in order to survive as markets and technology change. Again, another very powerful statement. It's so much that it's not that it's a one-time thing, right? You have to keep thinking about when do you need to change your problem statement, or how many times will you go about thinking about your problem statement? It's not a one-time thing, right? It's a continuous thing. And in order to survive, you'll have to keep reframing your problem. Okay, so again, the article talks about a couple of companies. The first one, Kodak. Now, I'm sure either you or your parents, have worked with or have bought so many film prints. You've used cameras that uses all this Kodak film prints, and they were so popular. There would hardly be, there would be very few companies or businesses that were along with Kodak that really was at the top, making all those film prints and for the cameras and all that. Now, and they used to be all around. You go to any supermarket, you'll find all the, one or two shelves full of this, film prints. Now, all of a sudden, what happened to Kodak, right? What did they do? What happened? Why are all the shelves gone? Why don't we hear about Kodak anymore? At least not for the general consumers. Maybe it's still in the movie industry. You might see them, but not in the general public that it was so highly used. Our cameras are full of our households used to be full of, Kodak films. What happened? They all disappeared. Why? Why don't we see this brand at all? What did Kodak do? Well, what Kodak did was, they thought they can keep changing their product or changing or packaging the product in a way that it will still keep, people attracted to it. While the whole, this business of taking pictures and the way pictures were being printed or saved on, and all that way the smartphones were coming up and the way people were, clicking pictures, all that was changing, all that was being revolutionized. Kodak did not reframe their problem. Kodak did not see that coming. And what happened at the end? It all just crashed. They just started disappearing from the marketplace because they did not innovate or innovate in a fast enough, or did not keep up with the pace of the changes that were happening with whole, the clicking of pictures and the way people click pictures and the way, it was all happening around them. They could have done it so differently. They could have innovated. They could have changed their products. They could have changed their services, and maybe they would still have been around. Okay. Then at the same time, look at the other company, Netflix. Well, if you think about Netflix, think about all the companies that existed years back. If you've been, if you've been someone who have played DVDs on their TV, on their, DVRs and VCRs, or maybe the tapes and recorders or whatever you had in the past, there were so many companies around. Blockbuster. There were so many mom and pop kind of stores that had all these kind of, video rentals, all those local stores, small businesses that were video rentals, the VCR rentals. What happened to all of them? Well, of course, the local stores and the smaller companies did close, but a large company like Blockbuster that was nationwide, or maybe most of the places, at least I know, were there, Blockbuster was there, they all started disappearing. And Netflix did not. Well, Netflix was in a very similar business, right? Like Blockbuster, they used to have all their DVDs. Yes, they used to come home, and Blockbuster also started doing that as well. But they had, a lot of things that went their way, because, they're here, you see on this picture, 7 different, ways why Netflix was successful, creating disruption, flexibility, variety of options, blah, blah, blah. Well, multiple things that have been said about Netflix. But I think the main thing was they saw themselves as being in the movie delivery business, not just the DVD delivery business. They did not say, okay, we are sending deliveries or sending DVDs this way, let's change it. Or let's change DVDs in a different way. Let's change our plans for sending DVDs. No, they knew that this is going to evolve. People are going to go into streaming business. That people are going to be doing more streaming than they ever did before, as the internet and all that becomes faster and faster. And as things go and things evolve, they will have to evolve their business. And they did. They kept pace with technology. They kept pace with times. They kept pace with other technologies around them. And they saw, they were into movie delivery business. See, the problem framing is different. It's the same, that this is the same company as so many other companies that existed along with them. Yet Netflix just went far ahead, and it is still in a very successful business today. You guys agree? Hey guys, still with me? Does all this make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. All right, so now once you're doing all this framing of problems and reframing of problems, one thing you have to be careful of, and that's the decision bias that happens. There are many different types of bias, right? There's an anchoring trap, which leads us to give disproportionate weight to the first information we receive. You have to be careful with that, right? Just do not be impulsive and react to the very first thing or first information or only information that we have in hand. Maybe that needs some more research. Status quo trap is bias. It biases us towards maintaining the current situation, even when better alternatives exist. We don't want to change, right? We want to just maintain that status quo. And that could be a part of the problem. That could be one of the major problems, actually. Then sunk cost trap, which inclines us to make choices in the way that justifies our past choices, even when these were mistakes. How many CEOs and how many companies have made this mistake, right? Just because they've done something in the past this way, it will work again today. Or just because I did something yesterday, I have to do the same today, because otherwise people would say I did not do it right the last time, right? And so we do this. We do it in different places, different situations, and different companies, and many CEOs have also done this as well. I see some, in the chat. Just let me take a look at the chat. Okay. Yep. Okay. So there were some comments about the flight industry that we were talking about. Okay, the airplane industry. Okay. All right. So let me keep going here. Overconfidence trap. It makes us overestimate the accuracy of our forecasts, right? Prudence trap. It leads us to be overcautious when we estimate about uncertain events. Okay. Confirming evidence trap leads us to seek out information supporting an existing predilection and to discount opposing information, right? You like a particular information and you want to just stick to it. So, which leads to, and confirming evidence kind of a bias. Recallability trap prompts us to give undue weightage to recent and dramatic events, right? Which once again could lead to bias. And finally, the framing trap, right? We were just talking about all of that, right? It occurs when we misstate a problem, undermining the entire decision-making process. So be careful with this decision bias. Think about, how you reframe, how you want to reframe a problem that is going to lead to multiple solutions, how you want to keep reframing it. Maybe there's a time period or an interval or a time interval after which you want to reframe your problems. And then while you're doing that, think about all these different kind of bias, right? Are you heading into any type of bias while you're stating your problems? Okay, So some just food for thought. I just wanted to leave you with these 3 questions that could come in very handy when you are making any kind of decisions. Think about how many times will you question your problem statement? What tools will you use to frame your problems? And how would you avoid any bias in your decision making? So very important. Just think about these 3 things, and you probably would have avoided making a wrong, or building a wrong framing a problems framing statement, right? Or problem statement. So think about, you'll have to question your problem statement. You learned about all the different tools that are available. Which one would you use? And you learned about all the different kinds of biases and how would you avoid your bias in your decision making. Okay, questions? Any questions on whatever we've kind of gone through so far? Okay, I'll take this silence as no. Okay, if not, then we'll go into our next topic and the last topic of the day, which is talking about assignment 1, which is due the end of week 2, the class week 2, which is next Tuesday. So by next Tuesday, we'll be completing this assignment along with reading the material that is there in the classroom. The goal of this assignment is to understand the importance of framing the problem and how to apply the 5 whys approach to a problem. You will analyze the problem in the scenario provided to you, which you saw the candy problem, which is in the Word document. You provide real-world examples when root cause analysis was used. Create a visualization of a root cause analysis and create a PowerPoint presentation to share what you've analyzed. So specifically, you will create a PowerPoint presentation with the following slides. You'll have a title page. You will provide, what is root cause analysis. You will provide 3 examples from the guide that is being also provided to you when root cause analysis was used. You create a visualization of the conversation heart problem. You summarize what happened, why it happened, and how to prevent it in the future. And you will have a reference page, or just citing all the references that you would have used. There is a best practices PowerPoint presentation, best practices that has been provided to you, but still, as I said, use your best judgment, right? Whatever makes your slide stand out, your presentation deck stand out. Just don't strictly and blindly follow the best practices just for the sake of, right? So use your best judgment. And then you'll submit this PowerPoint in the assignment in Leo to be graded. Okay. Any questions on assignment 1? Is this clear to everyone?
I have one question.
Sure.
Oh, go ahead. You go first.
With regards to question 4 about the visualization of the conversation heart problems, you said we can use, so in the PowerPoint presentation that was attached, there are 2 slides. One that has 5 whys, and then the second one with
arrows,
some graphics. So
yeah,
I'm assuming we would use the second slide.
Yeah, you could use the slide that, like how would it, which are one of the 2 slides that has got the I said the visualization is more for if you're using the 5 whys and the arrows, the horizontal arrows that it uses. There's also another one that is kind of more textual. So it just says use one of the visualizations, whichever that you would work for, the way you would want to present it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah, it's about the question 3. They say provide 3 examples from the
Mhm.
guide. Yeah, when root cause analysis was used.
Right.
What guide are they talking about? Is from
It's-
the reading they gave us?
No, this is in the, if you see in the Word document for the assignment, in that assignment, you've been, there's a link being provided for a guide. So
Okay.
just search for the word guide in your assignment. And
Okay.
it will take you right to that place where
Oh.
there's a link provided.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Good questions. Any other questions on assignment 1? Okay, let me see in the chat. Okay, don't see anything in the chat room also. So let's move on to the final slide and any general questions now. Anything else that you want to talk about? Any comments, any feedback of how your first week has been, how your installation went? It doesn't have to be just a question. It can be a comment as well. Anyone?
I have another question.
Sure.
Yeah, if for the discussion post, I don't know if we are allowed to post, make a discussion about the same topic, because I had that a problem before for last week. I was, I finished one, and when I was ready to, post it, I see that someone was, already post about it. So I have to go back and look for another one to post about it. I just want to make sure if you are allowed, or if that happen, we have to go back and, find something else.
That's an excellent question. I'm glad you asked that. Yes, you're absolutely right. That happens, right? You do your research and you're ready to, put your posting. You would have drafted. You would have spent few hours in doing that, only to find out that, hey, while you were doing it, or maybe just a few minutes back or a few hours back, somebody else posted for the same company, for the same problem, whatever that could be, right? It happens, but I mean, use your best judgment. Once again, I don't want you to kind of go back and, say, okay, now we'll spend another 8 hours kind of bringing up another company only to find out someone else would have also written that. So don't get into those. If you ever get into that situation, make sure that it is not kind of just exactly like a duplicate one, but you may have put in your own thoughts. You may have presented in a different way. Maybe it was, using the same company or the same example or whatever it is, but I think what's going to, the way you can differentiate yourself from others is through your own thoughts, right? How you're going to put it up. And that's important for me. So yes, if you have read that, I don't want you to go back and research on the same topic, because you would have read that. But if you ever get into that situation, you can just put up your posting with your thoughts. You can, then quickly write to me and saying, Lanesh, you may have, seen this posting. You may find it duplicate, but this is what I did. And by the time I was going to submit it, I saw that somebody else had did it. But I honestly did not read it, because I trust you guys, right? So yeah, if you just want to, send me a note, I'll definitely take that into account. But the intention is not to put you into more trouble or ask you to, work more and more hours unnecessarily.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. But folks, yeah, just use your best judgment, be honest to yourself. And as I said, I trust you all. And I know you would not do that. You would not try to copy, because everybody's here to learn. But as I said, you can differentiate with your thoughts, and that's most important to me. A good question there. Thank you for asking. And while I'm saying that, one thing I did mention at the beginning, you can all just refer to me as Lanesh. You don't have to call me Professor Dave. And thank you for all the respect. I love it, but I would want to be one of you, want to stay being one of you all the time. And if I would have been in a physical classroom, trust me, I would not have been sitting across you. I would have been sitting next to you. So just, refer to me as Lanesh. It's my first name. Thank you. Okay, any other questions? No more questions, then I think, oh, somebody was trying to say something.
Yeah, yes, Professor Smith, please give me 1 minute to mute the TV, please.
Sure.
Okay, Professor, thank you. Sorry.
Oh, okay, no question.
I have
Okay.
a question is little bit related to that, to these classes. I
Mhm.
want to know what is after this class, can we take a certification on Microsoft Power BI, or we need to study more?
Oh, you mean after this class, can you take it? Well, you'll have to practice a little more than what is there. It sets you up for that, for sure. But, there would be, you'll need some more practice to ensure that you can get in some more advanced, things that you can learn on your own or through, some tutorial, something, and be prepared for that certification. But it definitely sets you up. This will really get your feet wet with whatever you need to know or learn about Power BI.
Okay, Professor, thank you.
Okay, good question. Any other questions? Anyone?
If we happen to finish our presentations early, are we allowed to send it to you for feedback before we submit the final version?
Let me see. I can offer if you can send it to me earlier, but yeah, if you send me like, the day of your submission, then I cannot promise that I would be able to provide any feedback. I can try my best to provide you feedback, but I don't want you to wait too long that you miss, submitting your assignment on time. But I'll try my best to, give you my feedback. But once again, as I said, if it is much ahead of time, and once again, I will not be helping you much except for saying that you're on track or not on track.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and then if you're facing any issues with, understanding of the problem, feel free to send me email. Do not hesitate to do that, or you need to chat with me for anything, or what you not understand something about assignment, you can certainly send me an email or a time to chat live. I'll be very much open to that. So yeah, if feedback is something that you may not need, but you may want to kind of just have a conversation, some discussion around the assignment, I can certainly do that for you. Okay, I hope that helps.
It does, thank you.
All right, any other questions? If not, then I'm going to call it a wrap. Let me first stop the recording.